moral side of the news, our weekly discussion of today's top stories from a moral, ethical, and religious perspective. I'm Sean Kalin with the WHAS Crusade for Children, and I'm joined today, as always, by a distinguished panel of local religious leaders. Reverend Clay Calloway, West Louisville Ministers Coalition, Father Tony Smith, the Archdiocese of Louisville, Reverend Sally McClain, Christian Church, Disciples of Christ, and Rabbi Emerita Elia R. Grooks, the Temple. We begin this week with the sudden loss last week of Junior Bridgeman.
Junior died at 71 years old after suffering a medical emergency while speaking at a Galt House event for the Lincoln Heritage Council Scouting America. Forbes just reported that Junior was a billionaire. He played basketball at the University of Louisville from 1972 to 75, then went on to play 12 seasons in the NBA before choosing to settle down in Louisville with his family. An athlete turned businessman who was a minority owner of the Milwaukee Bucks and who owned and operated hundreds of Wendy's and Chili's restaurants through his company, Bridgeman Foods.
When you're starting to talk about Junior Bridgeman's footprint, I can't even imagine it.
He's remembered as a humble man to his friend since 1981, Jerry Eves, who followed Junior to U of L and then later to the NBA.
It was easy to follow Junior because he was always doing something that I was trying to achieve and follow. So he was huge footprints, but you could always see where he was going, so it was easy to follow.
Junior was coached by the legendary Denny Crum during his time at U of L.
And Denny thought the world of him. I mean, he just loved Junior. He was one of his early players.
A relationship that exceeded the sport, that left behind a lasting friendship with Coach Crum and his wife, Susan.
I have a shirt that says Denny's Louisville, but truthfully, this could be Junior's Louisville, because that's the kind of person he was, the impact he had on this community and U of L. It's going to be hard to replace. So it's a big hit for Louisville.
He was also a longtime trustee at Simmons College of Kentucky, Louisville's only historically black college and university. President Dr. Kevin Cosby also spoke about Bridgeman's legacy.
I guarantee you, when the history of the city of Louisville is written and people start looking at all that has been built in our lifetime, Junior Bridgeman's fingerprints are on all that is good and all that is noble in our community. He will be greatly missed.
His success made him an inspiration to even the biggest stars, like Shaquille O'Neal spoke about him last night on Inside the NBA.
A lot of people don't know this, but I've patterned my whole business acumen after Junior Bridgeman. Everything that he did, I tried to pattern after him. I just talked to him the other day because we were getting ready to do business. But this one really hit hard for me because he was definitely somebody that I look up to. I know I get a lot of credit. Oh, you do this and you do that. If it wasn't for Bridgeman, I wouldn't have known where to start. Because I watched this man, I was like, man, and I'm always the type I use jealousy as motivation. Like, man, this man got 400 Wendy's, let me do something. This man got 3 distributors, so like I used that, and I had a conversation with him, and he was so nice to me. I used to go to his function that he held during the Derby in Louisville. It was just a nice, humble young man, and he gave me all his secrets. Like he didn't gatekeep, he really shared it with me. He opened the book and was like, hey, matter of fact, I'll help you, I'll make a call for you. It's actually how I got into Papa John's also, because he lives in Louisville and he knew it. So, it was definitely a dear friend.
What changes one player from another is a player who makes others better. That player won't be great. He'll be extraordinary. Junior Bridgeman wasn't great. He was extraordinary because Junior Bridgeman made others better.
At just 71 years old, his passing came as a heartbreaking announcement to those who knew him, like Terry Miners.
Heaven has the quietest soul entering the gates today because Junior is so shy and so much does not want attention. He'll quietly sign in the register at the pearly gates and move over and be of service to the other people who are there.
But a legacy larger than life is left in his wake.
Leaving a legacy of love and thoughtfulness that other people, I don't know anybody else can step in those shoes.
So just an amazing man, and also I should point out a founding member of the endowment board of directors for the Crusade for Children. He's left a lasting legacy everywhere. Your thoughts on Junior Bridgeman?
You can just pick one word, but there's so much to say about Junior. We talked about him last week on our radio broadcast. Dr. Cosby called in, and and Jerry Eves called in as well, talking about Junior Bridgeman. You know, Junior Bridgeman was just so huge. The one thing a few things that stand out for Junior, he was the arch citizen of Louisville, the arch citizen. You know, we have archdiocese. He was the arch citizen. So there was none greater, there was no higher, no heart bigger than that of Junior Bridgeman. And a scripture came to my mind about a week or so ago. Pastor Cosby used it in a sermon, a funeral, but it applies to Junior Bridgeman. We'll quote Proverbs 11 and 25. Proverbs 11 and 25, it says, the liberal soul will be made fat. He that watereth will be watered. So it uses the L word to describe Junior Bridgeman. Junior Bridgeman personified that scripture. No one was more liberal, generous in his giving. He was more giving. They talk about him being a billionaire. That's a later designation of him, but he was a giver along the way. He was very generous about giving. And so when the name Junior comes to mind, I've been knowing about him for years, it's his benevolence that stands out more than anything else. He was a bridge builder. The quality goes in for the name goes on, but he was indeed a bridge man. He was bridging bridges between the have and the have-nots, the rich and the poor. He was known for being donating, helping, giving. That's his lasting legacy. And Dr. Cosby mentioned on our radio show last night, he said actually he was a DEI in this sense. You know, Dave Thomas, who owned Wednesdays at the time, reached out to Junior and gave him an opportunity to take these failing stores in Milwaukee. And they were in the worst part of the neighborhood. But because of that opportunity that Dave Thomas gave to him, that really set the stage for the rest of him. And so he was a DI, he was a Dave-empowered individual, for lack of a better term. And had he not done that, then the rest of the world would not have benefited from the benevolence of Junior Bridgeman. So he's just a remarkable person, and he will be sorely missed, and rightly so.
I did not know him except by reputation, and I think when we have a passing of an extraordinary person of his ilk, a giant in the community, as you say, it's good that people talk about what he has done, because again, I had no knowledge of what was going on. But this is good for the local community to see that we have individuals who make it big, to use that phrase, but then also return to their roots and begin to help people, not just here in Louisville, but as you say, Milwaukee and other places. So it's good that we talk about him and say fond farewell and blessings upon him because of what he has done for our community and just because of who he is. So.
You know, it's so hard today to find mentors for your children. And, you know, people that stand out in your community that you can actually say you would hope that your child would aspire to be something like this person. I don't think you can go to politicians much anymore. I don't think you can maybe even go to clergy much anymore. But this was just an ordinary person who became extraordinary and brought so many gifts with him. And someone like this, I would want my children and my grandchildren to look up to and say, this is somebody that inspires me.
We had some members of our parish, by the way, scouts, attending the situation when he did die. So, I mean, they also now have been tutored in how great a person this man has been. I'm sorry to interrupt.
I was just going to say, you said look up to him. Hearing Shaquille O'Neal say, I look up to him.
How poetic is that?
Right, but he definitely was a person to look up to. I met him a few times, but didn't really know him well, but obviously by reputation. A very dear friend of mine was in a lot of different seems like any just and righteous cause that the city of Louisville was fighting for to make lives better for our citizens. Junior Bridgeman was, if not in the immediate foreground, in the background, and someone that the community always knew they could go to. I mean, he was really a righteous soul.
I like that.
He really was a righteous soul. He cared. He never forgot where he came from. I mean, I heard that the reason he was doing that Boy Scout thing was because when he was young, he was too poor to be able to join the Boy Scouts. And here, I mean, it's just one little tiny example, but that was where he was when he tragically died. And he just, He stayed humble. You know, a lot of people who gain power, wealth, fame, whatever, it changes them. And if it changed Junior Bridgeman, I mean, as I say, I don't really know him, but from what I know of him, if it changed him at all, it only changed his ability to be kinder and more caring and more generous. He had just been bridged the barrier of a billionaire, but even that, I just can't see him ever changing. People, you know, we talk about time, talent, or treasure, whatever you can give. He gave his time, he gave his talent, he gave his treasure, and he gave his heart.
Gave his heart.
He really
It's
did.
probably poetic that he had a heart attack.
Yeah.
I mean, the strongest part about him proved to be the weakest target of attack. He was giving his heart by being there, donating him. And we mentioned Bridge, there's some poetry connected with his name. I was talking to someone earlier today that needed to rename a bridge after him.
Oh, yeah.
He was a bridge from the east. Yeah, Bridgeman Bridge. Pick any one of them. This is the city of bridges. And because he was a bridge between the east and the west, in fact, his family is asking that donations be given to the West End School, that he was on the board of the West End School, in lieu of flowers and other things.
Remarkable organization.
Donate to the West End School as a part of his lasting legacy. So he was a bridge between the East and the West, the have and the have-nots. He's from Indiana, so the bridge between Kentucky and Indiana. So just wherever you look, he was a bridge man that helped bridge communities in a way that very few in this history of the city ever had. So I think it would be very appropriate to rename a bridge after Bridgeman. It could be the 2nd Street Bridge, it could be the Sherman, I don't know, pick one. But I think it would be very appropriate to name something after Junior Bridgeman to honor his legacy.
Very good. Let's move on to topic 2 today. We turn now to the NASA astronauts now safely back on Earth after an unexpected 9 months in space.
And splashdown, Crew 9 back on Earth. NASA astronauts Sonny Williams and Butch Wilmore finally touching down back on Earth after an unplanned 9-month stay in space.
Nick, Alex, Butch, Sonny, on behalf of SpaceX, welcome home.
Moments earlier, the SpaceX Dragon capsule deploying parachutes, floating the crew down safely, landing off the coast of Florida at 5:57 Tuesday evening. The astronauts welcomed by a pod of dolphins before being lifted onto a recovery vessel. The crew all smiling and waving as they are assisted one by one out of the capsule, reacclimating to Earth's gravity. The members of Crew 9, Commander Nick Hague, cosmonaut Alexander Gorbanov, along with Sonny and Butch undocking from the International Space Station early Tuesday. 17 hours later, these first images captured by Mission Control. For Butch and Sonny, a long-awaited return after the original 8-day stopover mission turned into a 286-day ordeal due to technical issues with the Boeing Starliner, which was sent back without them in September.
We've had opportunities to do all sorts of science, spacewalks. It's varied and pretty awesome, actually, opportunity to do something different every single day.
Sonny breaking the record for the most spacewalking time by a woman at 62 hours and 6 minutes. The crew now undergoing medical evaluations, eager to reunite with their families.
So I'm not sure there's a whole lot of morality we can discuss on this story, but the spiritual lessons that can be drawn from the resilience.
Thank God that they are home safely.
That hairdo alone was worth introducing. I'm sure someone would emulate that hairdo and make some good from that. It's a good story. Of course, SpaceX participated in it. It reminds me, I'm old to remember one of my favorite programs back in the 60s, Lost in Space. Y'all remember that?
I love that.
Danger, Will Robinson.
And the family. Danger, Will Robinson.
Warning. Danger.
And Dr. Smith. So we had a lot of fun with that broadcast. I don't know how long we stayed on the air, but they were lost in space at least for a couple of seasons. so longer than they were lost in space. So I'm glad they were able to come back home. As Dorothy reminded us in The Wizard, there's no place like home. Yeah. So I'm sure they really experienced that joy when they came back home again.
The whole experience of, lemons, making lemonade out of it type thing. In my own career, whatever like that, I've been asked to go to a couple places, and just for a couple weeks or a couple months, and the couple months turned out to be almost a full year. which is different than us totally. But what do you do when something unexpected happens? You don't throw in the towel. You basically take what is given to you. Exactly, and give the gifts that you have in order to do the job that you're sent there to do, which I understand they accomplished quite a bit.
Oh, yeah. And
Research
she has the rest. She will have the record for being the woman with the most hours on a spacewalk.
And that hairdo, again, you can't ignore that one.
Yeah, I can't believe
That's
you
a
all
winner.
getting into the hairdo. That's
Right,
That's kind
that's
of
a whoa.
unusual.
No gravity, you know?
Yeah,
Everything goes
that's
up.
good.
And it's very clear when you see her hair
Yeah.
that that's what they're dealing with. You know, that gives you that little hint that something's going on that you don't recognize. I was so glad to see that something positive came out of something that Musk is doing because it's SpaceX that went up. The first couple of, they failed, didn't they? The first 2 flights that he tried to do. So I was glad that something positive finally came out of all of it.
But I do think that this is a call to funding of NASA. I really do believe that, you know, satellites, and I mean, we wouldn't have cell phones if it weren't for NASA. I don't want to make a whole
wouldn't have
list.
Velcro.
I was, yeah, well, there's a huge,
You wouldn't have Tang if it wasn't for that.
Here we go.
But without making a whole list, I mean, scientifically speaking, NASA has just been a national treasure. And to cut the funding to NASA, to me, is really a shame. And it makes me nervous when individuals have the power to, you know, satellites that are important for communication, and for them to be able to individually have the power to say yay or nay. We're going to cut all your satellite links or whatever. I just think that it belongs in the hands of the government. Not that I have such great faith in the government, but
it belongs to the people.
To the people.
It belongs
It's
to the
one
people.
of the things that the people can claim, because I remember I was teaching preschool then, and I took the kids in to watch the flights every time the flights were coming and to see what was going on, because it's, you know, if you start young showing what we can do as human beings, then I think it's all open.
Yeah, I was privileged to go to Houston to the NASA. We had a group going on down there, and somebody let us in the back door. No, it was everything official.
Is that because you were a priest, or just because?
No, just because the group we were in. But anyway, the whole routine was, my comment is, you'd be surprised.
Pray over them. Okay, go ahead.
Well, here's one thing for you too. Astronauts cannot be that tall. They have to be short.
Right.
You know why? If something happens, they have to be able to get into the escape module.
The capsule.
Right, and big ones can't get in there. No, my comment was going to be, I think the average person would be surprised at all the dedication, number one, and number two, the training that these individuals have to undergo. And it's an easy thing to just mess up one time and you're out of the program.
And all the people that work behind the scenes. There was a movie a few years ago called Hidden Figures. These are 3 black women that were critical in calculating the trajectories for the return of the return flight of John Glenn. So they were all black women who went to HBCUs. But they were behind the scenes, didn't get any recognition until the movie came out.
Right.
But there's a lot of people working behind the scenes that contribute to the success of the NASA program. And another thing, this was international. There was a cosmonaut.
Right.
That was a part of
it's
this.
the International Space Station.
Right. So that's a good thing.
Absolutely.
So I remember when the Sputnik in '57, when the Russians sent up Sputnik, and that kind of startled the United States and provoked the United States to get into the space race. They thought it would, be a military advantage if we don't get in the race. But it did help motivate us to get on board, to get involved. So this collaboration is yet another example of how working together can be a good thing and can benefit humanity as a whole.
Yeah.
And the risk-taking. I remember the one that
Columbia
that exploded, and it was like the whole nation was in grief because it was.
It was in what, 86? Was it?
86.
Was it 86? Yeah, it was a tragedy, and it was right around Easter, as I recall.
It was in the spring.
Yeah. So
An
it was,
Israeli astronaut, the first Ilan Ramon. Ilan Ramon.
We also had the tragedy. Grissom was one of the three guys in the whole thing caught fire.
Oh, and
so it's a dangerous.
No, there's no, and they know the danger.
Right.
And that's why, you know, the first, you know, what's the moral behind this is thank God they're home safely.
Yeah.
And the only other thing I want to say is people seem less and less committed to, respectful of, and believing in science these days. And, you know, I don't think that it's science or God. Einstein didn't think it was science or God.
That's all God created. I'm sure that hairdo again. The law of gravity created by God. We take for granted every day, but
I think somebody's going to Photoshop that hair on you.
right, probably will. But the law of gravity that
that
we take for granted, when it's suspended, you appreciate it when
Right. That's right.
you still can appreciate the law of gravity. So coming back home, it's a lot of little things like that. When was the last time you thanked God for gravity? I mean,
Right.
So
You're right.
it just reminds us of so much we need to be thankful of.
Yeah.
Well, and also exploration, because we've got to have that quest for something new and something different, especially if we don't get with it, with the rest of the world taking care of itself, as the Native Americans were so good at doing. But anyway, that's a whole other story.
Right. Let's move on to topic 3. We have about 7 minutes left. I'm not sure we have enough time to thoroughly go through this, but the Kentucky House of Representatives passed a resolution that would allow for the return of the Ten Commandments monument to the grounds of the state capitol. The monument was removed in the 1980s due to construction at the Capitol, then moved to Hopkinsville after the ACLU filed a lawsuit and won the lawsuit against the monument being reinstalled at the Capitol. Opponents to the current resolution just passed argue that restoring the monument poses a threat to the separation of church and state. The ACLU criticized the resolution, stating that it represents a public endorsement of one religion over others and could alienate those who do not share specific religious beliefs. So your thoughts on the approach to this new resolution to restore the Ten Commandments to the state capitol? We have 6 minutes.
You know, there's just so much to talk about in this. First of all, it should be cut and dried. The First Amendment says it very clearly. And that wall between religion and politics needs to remain firm. I mean, that was one of the major things that made America so great, that made us different from other countries, still does. And then my second question would be, which version are we going to put up? Even the Catholics and the Protestants don't agree, much less with the Jews. I mean, if you're going to post it in the original language so that everyone, no.
Yeah, right.
Because
there you go.
Is it the Protestant version that says thou shalt not kill? But actually the Hebrew word is murder. There's 2 different words for murder and kill, just like in English. Anyway, but we don't have to argue about which version should go up, because not everyone is Jewish, Protestant, or Catholic. Right. We have so many religions in our melting pot nation, and the idea of placing a symbol of even if you say if it's the original 3 in America it's wrong, and it's off-putting, and it's inappropriate for those of other faiths.
My comment would be, whatever, I mean, if they want to put it back, that's okay. The questions you brought up, which version, yes. But as I want to say on this panel more than once, what is the purpose of having the commandments there? You know, they say, well, we're to teach our young how to, I said, you can have again, I keep saying, you can tattoo the 10 Commandments, whatever version you want, on the heads of your children. But if the parents are home and the people in the community are not living it, it's a useless gesture.
And it just, you know, one thing Jesus did when he came in, he really was attacking religious tradition, and they returned the favor by attacking him. But and this country is so hypocritical. When we say God, we got God, in God we trust on our money. It'd be better to say in God we obey. I think that would be a better text to print. So we have it on our money. Pledge allegiance to the flag.
That was added much later.
It was added much later, but they added under God was added in 1954.
Right.
It was real late.
That's what I'm saying.
So they kept modifying it over the years, but inserted the in God, under God last.
Under God, yeah.
So we keep referring to the God here, God there, but we're so godless and so ruthless. You know, there's a book in the Bible called the Book of Ruth, but there's not a book in the Bible called the Book of Ruthless. And there appears to be a lot of ruthless policies at work now that clearly is antithetical to the values set forth in Scripture and identified as the God of the Scripture. So I think it exposes more hypocrisy than anything else, more hypocrisy than piety. And I think it's better to leave it out than to put it in, because it becomes another symbol of hypocrisy, and we don't need another example of that.
I always thought if you made a checklist out of it and put it on your refrigerator, and every night when you went to bed, you just checked off, you know, and said, oh yeah, you know, I've done it all, I'm good, you know.
Well, no one can keep them all anyway.
You know, I mean, it was
But
like.
on your refrigerator is fine. It's the question of, you know, the First Amendment again. I mean,
yeah, I agree
Tony,
with
I'm
you,
surprised
totally.
to hear you say that you're okay with it. 'Cause
I
you're a
didn't say I
big-
was okay. I said, you know, whatever version you choose, if they pass it or not. My objection is not objection. My concern is that it's okay to say I believe. It's okay to say I believe in whatever, but living it is totally a different issue.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be opposed to put it in Hebrew. I mean, let's try that.
Yeah.
Or pictorial symbols. I always thought that would be interesting.
But still,
I know, but I'm
it's
saying let's put it up there and see how that you
monotheistic
digest that.
religions, and it's and the other thing is, why do they want it there? They want
The
it.
motivation.
No.
They want it because they want it to be a Christian nation.
And to use it as a club, as a Louisville Slugger.
That's not what they say. They say it's for historic and, you know, ethical and whatever. And so they're already breaking one of the 10 Commandments, which say that you should not speak deceitfully. Just saying.
Justification, right.
Well,
We've
and
gotta
it was a
justify
member
why
of
we're
our
doing it.
congregation who brought the case to the Supreme Court, who argued in front of the Supreme Court about not having it. I think that was in the classrooms or whatever.
It used to be in the classroom.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's the freedom of religion and from religion is one of the cornerstones of what makes this a great republic.
Right.
Let's end it right there. You have 20 seconds. I know you wanted to talk about Rabbi.
Oh, I
and
just wanted
very quickly.
to say that Rabbi Chester Diamond, who was the senior, he came to the temple in Louisville, his first congregation, as an assistant rabbi, and then as to Dr. Waller of blessed memory, and then he became the associate rabbi and co-senior and senior. He followed the same path that I did, and I was his associate, and then co-senior and senior rabbi when he retired, and he died on Tuesday, and it is a tremendous loss to Louisville. Just a great light, just the most loving, caring, kind, compassionate, and a very pastoral kind of rabbi. And he really made such a difference in this community, and we will miss him so much, not just the Jewish community.
Thank you. Thanks for a great show today, Reverend Clay Calloway, Father Tony Smith, Reverend Sally McClain, and Rabbi Emerita Galia Rooks. Thanks for joining us this week on Moral Side of the News. Join us again next week for an all-new edition of Moral Side of the News.